A. Identify and explain different types of risk: business, hazard, financial, operational, strategic. Business risk refers to the uncertainty in achieving operating income due to demand variability, cost structure, and competitive pressures. It arises from the nature of the firm's core operations. Hazard risk involves exposure to losses from natural disasters, accidents, theft, or litigation. These risks are often insurable. Financial risk stems from the use of debt financing. Higher leverage increases fixed financial obligations and earnings volatility. Operational risk relates to failures in internal processes, systems, or personnel. Strategic risk arises from poor business decisions, technological change, or shifts in customer preferences. Effective risk management requires identifying and monitoring all risk categories. B. Demonstrate an understanding of operational risk. Operational risk is the risk of loss resulting from inadequate or failed internal processes, people, or systems. It includes errors, fraud, system failures, and supply chain disruptions. Unlike financial risk, operational risk originates within the organization. Examples include cybersecurity breaches, production breakdowns, and human error. Strong internal controls, process standardization, and employee training reduce operational risk exposure. Continuous monitoring and risk assessment frameworks help organizations proactively identify vulnerabilities and strengthen resilience. C. Define legal risk, compliance risk, and political risk. Legal risk arises from potential lawsuits, contractual disputes, or unfavorable court decisions. It can result in financial penalties and reputational damage. Compliance risk refers to failure to adhere to laws, regulations, and internal policies. Non-compliance may lead to fines or operational restrictions. Political risk stems from government actions, regulatory changes, or political instability affecting business operations. International businesses face heightened exposure to political risk. Effective governance, regulatory monitoring, and legal oversight help mitigate these risks and protect organizational stability. D. Demonstrate understanding of how volatility and time impact risk. Volatility measures the degree of variability in outcomes, such as fluctuations in earnings, cash flows, or asset prices. Higher volatility increases uncertainty and therefore risk exposure. Standard deviation and variance are common statistical measures of volatility. Greater dispersion around expected values signals higher risk. Time horizon affects risk assessment. Over longer periods, uncertainty generally increases due to economic cycles, inflation, and market changes. Short-term volatility may differ from long-term trends. Managers must align risk evaluation with planning horizon, recognizing that both magnitude and duration of uncertainty influence overall risk exposure. E. Define capital adequacy, solvency, liquidity, reserves, sufficient capital. Capital adequacy refers to maintaining sufficient financial resources to absorb losses and continue operations. It protects stakeholders and supports long-term stability. Solvency reflects the organization's ability to meet long-term obligations. It focuses on overall financial strength. Liquidity measures the ability to meet short-term obligations. Adequate cash and liquid assets are essential. Reserves provide a financial cushion against unexpected losses. Maintaining sufficient capital ensures resilience during economic downturns and enhances investor and creditor confidence. F. Explain probabilities in risk exposure and calculate expected loss. Risk exposure is often assessed using probability-weighted outcomes. Each possible outcome is assigned a likelihood of occurrence. Expected loss equals the sum of each potential loss multiplied by its probability. Formula: expected loss equals sigma, probability times loss amount. Probability analysis supports decision-making under uncertainty. T allows comparison of alternative risk scenarios quantitatively. Understanding expected loss helps managers evaluate risk mitigation strategies and allocate resources efficiently. G. Define unexpected loss and maximum possible, catastrophic, loss. Unexpected loss represents the amount by which actual loss exceeds expected loss. While expected loss is anticipated and often budgeted, unexpected loss reflects variability around that expectation. Unexpected losses arise from rare but plausible adverse events. These outcomes create volatility in earnings and cash flows. Maximum possible loss, catastrophic or extreme loss, refers to the worst-case financial impact from a risk event. It represents the upper bound of potential exposure. Stress testing and scenario analysis help estimate extreme losses. Understanding both expected and extreme losses supports capital planning, risk tolerance setting, and financial resilience. H. Identify strategies for risk response: avoid, retain, reduce, transfer, exploit. Risk avoidance eliminates exposure by not engaging in the risky activity. This strategy removes both potential loss and potential gain. Risk retention, acceptance, involves consciously bearing the risk. This is appropriate when potential loss is minor or mitigation costs exceed benefits. Risk reduction, mitigation, lowers either probability or impact of loss. Examples include internal controls and diversification. Risk transfer shifts financial impact to another party. Risk exploitation involves taking calculated risks to capture opportunities aligned with strategic objectives. 1. Define risk transfer: insurance, issuing debt, etc. Risk transfer involves shifting the financial consequences of a loss to another party. The organization retains operational exposure but reduces financial impact. Purchasing insurance transfers hazard risk to an insurer in exchange for premiums. Contractual agreements, such as outsourcing or indemnification clauses, also shift risk exposure. Issuing debt can transfer certain risks to lenders, although it increases financial risk. Effective risk transfer requires evaluating cost, coverage limitations, counterparty reliability, and overall impact on risk profile. J. Understand residual risk and distinguish it from inherent risk. Inherent risk is the level of risk that exists before any controls or mitigation strategies are applied. It reflects the natural exposure associated with an activity, process, or decision. Residual risk is the remaining risk after risk management responses have been implemented. It represents the actual exposure the organization continues to face. The difference between inherent and residual risk reflects the effectiveness of controls. Residual risk can never be completely eliminated. Management must determine whether it falls within the organization's risk appetite. Understanding this distinction supports better control design and realistic risk tolerance assessment. K. Identify and explain the benefits of risk management. Effective risk management reduces the likelihood and severity of losses. It enhances organizational stability and protects financial performance. It improves decision-making by identifying potential threats and opportunities. Strong risk management supports regulatory compliance and corporate governance. T protects reputation and stakeholder confidence. By proactively managing uncertainty, organizations improve resilience, optimize capital allocation, and align risk-taking with strategic objectives. L. Identify and describe key steps in the risk management process. Risk identification involves recognizing potential events that could affect objectives. Both internal and external risks must be considered. Risk assessment evaluates likelihood and impact. Quantitative and qualitative methods may be used. Risk response determines how risks will be addressed: avoid, reduce, transfer, retain, or exploit. Risk monitoring ensures controls remain effective over time. Continuous communication and reporting integrate risk management into strategic and operational decision-making.